Welcome back, welcome in to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Oh, this is our week 4 review episode here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where we celebrate and I discuss all things college football, but with a special emphasis on the black and golds of the Missouri Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. So great to have you back with us. If this is your first time, welcome. You are now officially a member of the Black and Gold family. I'm coming to you once again. I am your host, Blair Parks, from the Man Cave, the Hawk Cave, here on Tuesday, the 28th of September. Yes, October is right around the corner. I just mentioned week 4 has now been completed, which that brings a tear to my eye because that means we are already a third of the way through the regular season of college football for this year. Oh, happiness, but some depression starting to set in from this guy right here. What a weekend of football we had. If you watched last week's week 4 preview show on Thursday, I tabbed the over the weekend. It was the appetizer. Because something that I didn't mention during that show, but I will right now with you, is between weeks 4 to 7, this is what is going to separate the good, the bad from the ugly. Wah, wah, wah. The dreamers, the contenders, and the pretenders. So between weeks 4 to 7, I'm going to give you a 4-course meal, starting with the appetizer over the weekend. And what a weekend it was. And as you can tell, I put on a polo today, kind of switching it up, cleaning it up, even though you still have to look at all this. My apologies. I'm not a miracle worker, but I thought I'd show you that I do have a little bit of class when it comes down to when push comes to shove. Even though I am right now wearing PJ shorts, but that's beside the point. Also, during this episode, pay attention. I'm definitely going to be handing out several shames to teams, players, coaches, because there were several following weeks 4 performance that are deserving of a little shame. And this episode, quick overview. I've got 5 topics to present to you. I have my quick hits from week 4 appetizer, how it went, what I saw. Then I'll share with you the updated top 25 AP poll. After that, I'll give you my updated team power rankings. Then I will share with you what I saw from a black and gold perspective, how it played out on the field over the weekend for both Missouri and Iowa. And then I will revisit with you the week 4 pick'em segment, let you know how I did, how Charlie did, Mr. Black and Gold Missouri himself. And we had a guest picker last week, if you recall, if you watched the episode. My brother Anthony joined us, so I will let you know how we did. And before I proceed, I'm doing this for your pleasure, for mine. I'm not looking for any monetary value. I'm not looking to be picked up or syndicated, but if that was to become an option, well, I ain't no fool. I'll definitely listen. But to make this possible, I definitely need your insight. I need your involvement. Please feel free. Blow up the comments. Let me know how I'm doing. If there's something you'd like me to share during the episodes, a topic or discussion, feel free. Let me know. We're in this together, and please spread the word, like, share, subscribe. Let's keep this going. So without further ado, let's get into how week 4, the appetizer, tasted. So my initial quick hits that I have from week 4, wow, the parody continues, and what a phenomenal season it has been because of that. We had, yet again, during week 4, 2 top 10 teams lose. Texas A&M lost, and Clemson mighty Clemson, my God, how Olympus has fallen. They took not their first, but their second loss of the season only through 4 weeks of football. So the parody continues. Embrace the change, people. This has been long overdue. Let's get some new, fresh blood, fresh faces in there into the playoff. And I'm tired of seeing the same old matchups, the same as you, unless you're a fan of those teams. But this is excellent. This is what makes this sport so unique and so great. You never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates. So the parody, and this is to kind of this. Let me share this with you. I just said we had 2 more top 10 teams lose, and we'll get to those games here shortly. But just to kind of give you the overview of the parity that has happened through 4 weeks. Now, most teams have played 4 games. Some have only played 3 if they had a bye week. Some maybe even played 5 if they had a week 0 game. But let me share this with you. I went back and I looked. Now, I referenced the initial top 25 AP poll that came out prior to week 0. And of that, 9 of the 25, so if I do quick math, that's 37, let's just say 40%, because I believe it's right around 40%. So roughly 40% of the teams that were in the initial AP top 25 have at least 2 losses. Wow. Wrap your head around that for a moment. Who saw that coming? Nobody. Not even this guy. Even though I'm not some oracle of Delphi, I do, and I have made some pretty legitimate predictions already, and some of them have already come true. I think after week 6, I'll kind of update you at the halfway point how my predictions are looking, and also maybe give out some special midseason awards to players or coaches and teams that we need to pay some attention to and give props to. Okay? So those 9 teams that have at least 2 losses after week 4, we have Clemson, already mentioned, Iowa State. They had huge expectations and aims this year, and I was somebody who bought into those expectations during our predictions episode, I believe episode 4 earlier this season. I was on the Iowa State bandwagon. I actually picked them as my playoff sleeper team. With their second loss, that is pretty much gone. They still have a lot to play for. Could they still win the Big 12 conference? Absolutely. But playoff aspirations done, just like Clemson's. North Carolina took another bad loss on Saturday, lost to Georgia Tech. That's another team that has at least 2 losses that was ranked. Miami, they lost to Alabama opening weekend, and then week 3 got blitzkrieged, absolutely bludgeoned by Michigan State. Wisconsin, and I am going to talk a lot more about this Wisconsin team here shortly, so stay tuned in this episode. They suffered their second loss over the weekend to Notre Dame, and they've only played 3 games. So they are 1-2 on the young season is Wisconsin. USC, wow. Lost to Stanford week 2. That led to the firing of Coach Clay Helton. It's only gotten worse there in Hollywood. They lost over the weekend at home against Oregon State. I'll bring up that game here shortly as well. Indiana lost their opener on week 1 at Iowa, got absolutely embarrassed by my Hawkeyes. Then they lost 2 weeks ago to Cincinnati, who's a legitimate top 10 team. They got a huge matchup this weekend coming up, and I'll get to that game more during the week 5 preview show later this week. Washington has 2 losses as well, and so does Utah. So we have 9 teams that have 2 losses that were in the initial AP poll. That is absolutely amazing. And this is not me going out on a limb, but I can pretty much guarantee that that is the most that has probably ever happened in the modern era of college football. Absolutely love the parity, love what's going on. It comes down to, at this point, who might just be left standing when the smoke clears. Who's going to survive? Now, and kind of reflective of that, I love having new faces and the new mix of teams. I mean, right now, and I'll unveil the updated AP poll here next in the next topic, but just as a little spoiler, these are some of the teams we currently have in the AP Top 10 through 4 weeks of football. Arkansas, Cincinnati, Iowa, Penn State, and Oregon. Who saw that coming? Not even Zoltar himself could foresee that coming or grant wishes to those fans who wanted their teams there. This is absolutely ludicrous. Like Mike Tyson would say, this is ludicrous, but excellent in the same breath. Some other quick hits. Got to talk a little bit about the ACC. And wow, the Atlantic Division, especially in the ACC, totally up for grabs. I don't know who wants to win it, who's going to win it, but right now the favorites to win this division is Wake Forest, who got a huge win Friday night at Virginia. They now find themselves ranked. Yes, a ranked Wake Forest team, undefeated, and also NC State, who knocked off Clemson during week 4, the appetizer. They're now potentially a favorite. They do have one loss, but it was out of conference. And Boston College. Boston College is 4-0 on the young season. Upset our Missouri Tigers, a tough loss for Mizzou. Give you more feedback on that one here shortly. So Boston College is 4-0 as well. Not going to factor into that division is Clemson with 2 losses. Yes, only one conference loss. So we've seen stranger things happen. Could they still win that division? It's possible, but very unlikely. And once again, who saw that coming? So the ACC continues to be in complete turmoil and upheaval. Wow, how the mighty have fallen. And I got to mention this. I always give you every week my unusual suspects, the teams that are surprisingly undefeated after that week. And Cinderella is still dancing. The clock has not struck midnight on specifically 2 of these Cinderellas from the non-Power 5 ranks of Division 1. UTSA, the Roadrunners, one of my favorite mascots. The running back, Sincere McCormick, one of the great names in college football, stud running back. They're undefeated. They went to Memphis. And remember, that was our non-Power 5 Spotlight Pick'em game of the week during week 4. Memphis and UTSA both came in undefeated. In Memphis, UTSA got down 21-0 at the end of the first quarter, stormed back, and kicked a walk-off field goal to beat Memphis 31-28. And the other Cinderella that is worth mentioning is the SMU Mustangs, also undefeated. One of our pick'em games this week also was SMU at TCU. And my oh my, they went to a Power 5 opponent, a very under-the-radar, pretty solid TCU team, and got it done. Well done, UTSA. Well done, SMU. Golf clap, you are deserving. Keep your great seasons going. And I mentioned UTSA down 21-0, storm back, win with that walk-off field goal. And SMU, incredibly, I knew this team could throw the ball. I mean, this team kind of reminds me a little bit of the greatest show on turf, you know, the nearby St. Louis Rams in their Super Bowl year with Kurt Warner at the helm. This SMU squad, I knew could pass the ball all over the field. I mean, there's no doubt. They can absolutely play pitch and catch. But in this win against TCU, a very proud defensive program, their head coach, Gary Patterson, former defensive coordinator, prides himself on defense. Not that day. On that day, the complete opposite. SMU tallied 350 yards rushing against the TCU defense. Wow. Once again, if you had that, if you went to Vegas or Atlantic City and had that as a bet, props to you. Enjoy the high life because you're living it today. If you put legitimate money on that sort of rushing yard accumulation for SMU. So well done to the Mustangs and the Roadrunners again. Now, Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly, who is the current head coach at Notre Dame. Little shout out, a little golf clap to Coach Brian Kelly, which I know he has a lot of opponents and proponents. Whether you like or dislike him as a coach, we have to give him props. In their victory on Saturday against Wisconsin on the hallowed grounds of Soldier Field in Chicago, he passed a legend, the godfather, the man who created Notre Dame football. Well, not legitimately created, but the man who put them on the map. The godfather, the legendary coach, Knute Rockne. With Notre Dame's victory on Saturday, Brian Kelly passed Coach Rockne for the most wins ever in Notre Dame Fighting Irish history. So kudos to you. I've got to say that how his tenure at Notre Dame has had some ups and downs, like the elevator business. But what he has been able to sustain there is very impressive, especially when you take into account their academic standards at Notre Dame and the expectations there at Notre Dame year in and year out are very similar to those at places like Alabama. The fans, they expect you to be right there at the end of the year making your playoff push or being a part of the 14 playoff. So excellent job, a lot of pressure and stress with that job. He has been able to make it work. Well done. And as homage, I had to do a little bit of practice, so here it goes. This is a shout out this is a tribute to both Brian Kelly for passing Knute Rockne and to Knute Rockne himself for that fiery, get-up, motivational speech he gave in the locker room. This team, they say, boys, is good, but I think we're better. We're going to get the ball. We're going to run inside of them. We're going to run outside of them. Run inside and outside. And we're not going to pass the ball until that defense comes. We're going to get them on the run, and we're going to keep them on the run. And we're not going to pass until the defense comes up close. And they get close. We're going to keep them on the run, and we're going to go, 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 go. And we're not going to stop until we cross that goal line. Remember today, men. This is the day we're going to win. They can't lick us. We're going to get them on the run and fight, fight, fight. What do you say, men? Yay! Woo! Oh, I just had to channel my inner Knute Rockne, and that did take some practice. Also, one of the great scenes from one of the great sport movies, but not just sport movies, but humane movies, just inspirational movies of Rudy. I mean, this time of year, Rudy's on my favorite 5. I mean, I'm watching that movie pretty consistently. That's in my rotation right now. Even though I'm not a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan, you've got to love that. You got to love and watch that movie, especially this time of year. So congrats to Coach Brian Kelly. So let's now some more quick takes from week 4, quick hits. Some streaks that ended during week 4. I mean, I'm going to call these the streak breakers, not the streakers. No Frank the Tanks here, but the streak breakers. Oregon State, already mentioned, they went to USC on Saturday and defeated the mighty Trojans in the Coliseum, 45-27. That was their first win in the Coliseum since 1960. Woo woo! Getting it done, Beavers. Go Beavs. Ooh, Bowling Green State University. Bowling Green out of the MAC, the Mid-American Conference. Oh boy, let's celebrate their victory. They went into the Twin Cities, played Minnesota, and Minnesota, they're definitely going to get a little shame here, so stand by with that. But Bowling Green, they had lost 10 straight games against Division I opponents. They go to the Twin Cities, knock off Minnesota 14-10. So well done, way to end your streak, Bowling Green. Now Minnesota, the first shame of the week. You're at home. And remember, last week, this Minnesota team traveled on the road to Colorado at Boulder and absolutely kicked the asses, the holy S's, out of the host Colorado Buffaloes and pitched a shutout 30-0. They come home week 4. They're at home. Pretty much to them, easy victory, a walkover opponent. It's homecoming. And to add insult to injury, for the Gophers, they were a home 31-point favorite to win the game and lost to Bowling Green. Here's some stats. Now, if you're a Minnesota Golden Gopher fan, maybe, cover your ears, look the other way, go get yourself a snack or a drink, restroom break. But in the loss to Bowling Green only tallied 192 total yards and still won. Tanner Morgan, the quarterback for Minnesota, a guy who I thought coming into this year could potentially be the best quarterback in the Big Ten because he is a multi-year starter, only tallied 59 yards passing in that awful, historic loss to Bowling Green. So at home, homecoming, coming off a big win, 31-point favorite, and you can't get it done. I say to you, the Minnesota Golden Gophers squad, coaching staff, everyone, to you, I say, shame, shame, shame. Moving on. More streak breakers. Let's look at Arkansas. Arkansas, the Razorbacks, scored a huge victory early in this season, knocked off Texas, got themselves ranked. A lot of people hadn't yet bought into this team. How good were the Pig Sooie Razorbacks? But they met up against Texas A&M, who was ranked number 7, one of the other top 10 team that lost this past weekend, along with Clemson. They meet up, and Arkansas walks away with a 20-10 victory. Before that, Arkansas had lost 9 straight games to the A&M Aggies. Well done, Arkansas. Coach Sam Pittman has got them believing. People have now bought into them. I am one of those. But their matchup this coming week is absolutely brutal. There's no rest for the weary. They have a 4-game gauntlet. But right now, they are 1-0. And this week, they travel to number 2 Georgia. That'll definitely be a game I'll talk about during our Week 5 preview later this week. So well done to Arkansas head coach Sam Pittman. And I've got to give some love and a shout out to the Arkansas defensive coordinator, former Missouri coach Barry Odom. Has those boys moving around, tackling, executing, hustling, playing at a very high level defensively are Barry Odom's boys on the Arkansas defense. So well done, shout out. Now the next shame goes to the Texas A&M Aggies. But more specifically, I'm going to shame Coach Jimbo Fisher and the athletic department, the president, the provost, the entire upper echelon at Texas A&M University. Jimbo Fisher, the man you just gave a raise to, the $7.5 million man. That's his annual salary at the helm of the A&M Aggies on the sideline. Even though his team took a loss, it's a big-time win for him. Cha-ching! He collected $625,000 in a loss. So giving this man that kind of money for this result, when I believe this team is in way more trouble. You look on the horizon, they've got some big-time games coming up that are going to be tough for them to navigate. There's definitely troubled waters at Texas A&M. On the horizon, they host Alabama next week in 2 weeks. After that, they go to sleepy Columbia, Missouri to take on the Tigers. They still have to play Ole Miss, who is highly ranked, playing at a very high level, and still have to play LSU. There is troubled times on the horizon for A&M, but Jimbo Fisher's still getting paid. So for the decision to pay this man that kind of money, to Coach Jimbo Fisher, the provost, the president, the AD, everyone there at Texas A&M, I say to you, shame, shame, shame. But you have some more streak breakers. Boston College. Boston College is off to a 4-0 start after their surprising victory over our Missouri Tigers. They're off to a 4-0 start. This is their first 4-0 start since 2007. On that team was somebody you might recognize a name, quarterback by the name of Matt Ryan. So excellent start to this season for Boston College. That blows my mind. This team has not been a doormat. I mean, not that I can recall. They've had down seasons, but not to be 4-0 the first time since 2007. Wow, that is very unexpected when I saw that stat. Next breaker, we have the NC State. The Wolfpack. The Wolfpack knocked off number 9 Clemson on Saturday, a game that this guy right here picked. To me, not really much of an upset. Clemson, I don't really understand why they were that highly ranked, but we'll get to that here shortly. So NC State knocks off Clemson in overtime. Prior to that, they had also lost 9 straight against Clemson, just like Arkansas had lost 9 straight against A&M. So well done, Wolfpack. You got it done. One of my potential sleeper teams came through for me. You end the streak against Clemson. And Clemson, they had one of their big streaks broken. Clemson, before the game Saturday, they had won. And this is impressive. But to me, I don't know if it's more of giving props to Clemson or maybe kind of speaks to the overall weakness of the ACC potentially during this miraculous run they've had since 2015. But before the loss they took on Saturday at the hands of the Wolfpack, the Clemson Tigers had won 36 straight games against unranked opponents. That is impressive, but that streak has now come to an end. So those were the streak breakers that we saw during Week 4. Now let's talk about some streaks that continued. The Iowa defense, give some love, some props to my Hawkeyes. Their defense, now the streak has reached 26 games as I expected it to. They have now allowed no opponents more than 24 points a game for 26 straight games. Impressive streak. Keep it going. It might be in trouble this Friday night. Yes, you heard right. Iowa draws a Friday night game this week at Maryland. Tune in for more insight on that later this week. Potentially that streak could come to an end. And the Iowa winning streak. Overall, they have now won, dating back to last year, 10 games in a row. One of the longest in the nation. But still, kudos. Well done, Iowa. Keep it going. Let's keep both streaks intact after Week 5. So hopefully a week from today, we can talk about both those streaks still going for Iowa. Now, some other last quick hits I have for you. The Ohio State University, spelled T-H-E, the Ohio State University finds itself outside of the AP Top 10. In victory, they beat up on the Akron Zips, which arguably could be one of the worst Division I programs in the nation. Even though they won, they dropped one more spot. They are now out of the top 10. When's the last time we saw that take place? Clemson, with their second loss, even though during our Week 4 preview show, I stated publicly on record, no matter what they did, Clemson had 0.0 chance, thank you, Dean Wormer, of making the playoff. With their second loss, they are completely officially out of the running for the playoff. No matter what they do, I don't care what sort of chaos we have, they are not going to make the playoff. It's just not going to happen. So Clemson fans, you had a good run. always next year. Basketball season's coming up soon. For the second consecutive week, Oklahoma falls in the AP poll. They did win Saturday. It was a squeaker at home. They beat West Virginia on a walk-off field goal, 16-13. So very lackluster performance once again from the Sooners. Keeps us kind of scratching our heads. What are they doing? What is wrong with their offense? But they got the victory, but they dropped for the second straight week in the AP poll. And you'll see where they dropped here during our next topic. So week 5, and there's huge matchups on the horizon that I'll talk more about later in the week during the week 5 preview show. But week 5 is going to be the next course, the soup or salad. And my last quick hits, shout outs as I do every week to the unusual suspects. I'm putting out APBs on these teams that are surprisingly still remain undefeated through 4 weeks of football. From the ACC, already mentioned the Wake Forest Demon Deacons and the Boston College Eagles. Keep it up. From the Big Ten, the state of Michigan. Michigan and Michigan State still both remain undefeated and both ranked after week 4. And Maryland. Maryland still remains undefeated as well. Huge matchup once again this Friday with my Hawkeyes. From the Big 12, Baylor. Baylor knocked off Iowa State over the weekend, eliminating them from any playoff contention, I presume. But they find themselves undefeated and now ranked. And Oklahoma State knocked off K-State at home over the weekend. So Baylor and Oklahoma State, unusual suspects out of the Big 12, still undefeated. From the SEC, I mentioned Arkansas. You'll see where they're ranked here shortly. And also Kentucky. Kentucky on the road, SEC play, got a victory at South Carolina. Close game, I believe it was 16-10. So the Wildcats remain undefeated from the SEC. From the American Athletic, already gave much love and props to them. SMU, the Mustangs. From Conference USA, also gave them plenty of love and shout out. UTSA, the Roadrunners. From the Mountain West, 2 teams completely off the radar that remain undefeated. The San Diego State Aztecs and the Wyoming Cowboys. Wyoming did have a scare against UConn. I mean, one of probably the worst Division I football team. But they actually had a chance. They went for 2, could not convert, and that was the deciding factor in the Wyoming-UConn game over the weekend. From the Sun Belt, South Alabama. The Jaguars still find themselves undefeated. Great job. And the Independents, Army. Army is off to a 4-0 start, and BYU had a kind of a dogfight over the weekend, Saturday night. Took care of business. So Army and BYU both still remain undefeated as independents. So good stuff there. Great stuff. Those were my quick hits. Things I wanted to do to bring you up to speed on how week 4 went down. All right. So our next topic of the day, I'm going to go ahead and unveil to you the updated AP poll. If you haven't checked this out via website or news outlet, here it is. So as I normally do, I'm going to go through the poll highlights first. Welcome to the poll. We have number 19, Oklahoma State makes their debut. Number 21, Baylor. And kind of ironically, those 2 teams meet up this weekend. So a week from now, one of those 2 teams is not going to be ranked unless it's an absolute close chin-chin-chin kind of game. Number 23, NC State. They make their debut in this week's poll after knocking off Clemson, that huge statement victory within the ACC. And Wake Forest, off to that 4-0 undefeated start, they find themselves in this week's poll as well for the first time. Those who are moving up are big movers. Up 8 spots is the Arkansas Razorbacks with their big-time win, their prove-it game, prove-it win against A&M. Up 5 spots is Michigan. They were definitely tested at home, as I thought they would be by previously undefeated Rutgers. They did win by a touchdown, but a close game. But still, Michigan did show a lot of grit coming away with the victory because Rutgers was down for a good game. They definitely came to play. So Michigan up 5 spots. Fresno State, UCLA, both moved up 4 spots this week with their victories. Notre Dame moved up 3, which that's something I'll mention because they did move back into the top 10 with their victory over Wisconsin. And Penn State moved up further in the AP poll. They moved up 2 spots to now they occupy the number 4 spot in the AP poll. Those who are moving down, number 20, Clemson, after their loss, they drop a whopping 16 spots. Texas A&M, after their loss to Arkansas, they drop 8 spots in this week's poll. Oklahoma, as I mentioned, with their very lackluster, putsy-futsy effort, they dropped 2 spots. And Ohio State, they dropped 1 spot as well. And those who find themselves moving out, no longer ranked, number 14, Iowa State with their loss at Baylor. Number 18, Wisconsin with their loss, neutral site against Notre Dame. Number 21, North Carolina with an awful loss at Georgia Tech. And number 25, Kansas State with their loss at Oklahoma State. So here's how the poll shook out for this week. Number 25 is Clemson, and I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to give a big shame to the AP pollsters, the media people, whoever cast ballots and votes. I'm telling you right now, Clemson has no business being ranked. Nothing about this team says they are worthy of a ranking, other than the name on the jersey and the tiger paw on the side of the helmet. I am sick and tired of college football being the beauty contest. Oh, let's just reward those who are at high places, high spaces. We're still going to reward them, those who recruit at the next universe level. I'm sick and tired of this. Clemson has no business being ranked. Teams that should be ranked, that UTSA team that did defeat Memphis, but they also have a victory on the road at a Power 5 team. They did go to Illinois and win. And SMU with their win at TCU. Those 2 teams need to be ranked, should be ranked. Clemson, absolute garbage. So I say to you, the pollsters, those who cast votes for this, to you for having Clemson ranked, shame, shame, shame. 24 is Wake Forest. 23, continuing on, is NC State. 22, Auburn. Auburn also falls, to me, where Clemson is. Auburn has no business being ranked. When they lost week 3 at Penn State, which was a tough environment, it was a good game. They were definitely down for it. In a loss, they only dropped 1 spot, which was fair. But this week, they come back out of nowhere. With 3 minutes to go, they do a 98-yard drive, score, and that is what won the game for them against Georgia State. So in victory, why does this team move up? I don't understand it. It makes no sense. Best case scenario, they should have stayed where they were. You need that kind of an effort against a Georgia State team that is now 1-3. And what do? We go ahead and just reward mediocrity, them being ranked, and especially moving up. Shame once again on you, the pollsters. I don't understand this ranking either. Number 21 is Baylor. Number 20, UCLA. 19, Oklahoma State. 17, the Fresno State Bulldogs. 17, Michigan State. 16, the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. 15 is Texas A&M. 14, Michigan. BYU holds the 13 spot. Number 12 this week is Ole Miss. Number 11, just outside the top 10, as I mentioned, is Ohio State. Now, the top 10 in this week's AP poll, at number 10 is the Florida Gators. Number 9, moving back into the top 10, is Notre Dame. Number 8, Arkansas, after that statement victory against A&M. Number 7 is Cincinnati, and Cincinnati is the highest ranked non-Power 5 team in this week's poll, and they have a shot. The way things are shaking up in a season unlike any other. Now, I say that knowing last year was a season like none other because of COVID, but I'm referring to this season. We are seeing so many upsets. So many power players are struggling and have struggled that teams in front of them could falter. And if Cincinnati, this is their moment, especially coming up this week when they play Notre Dame, this is their moment. Could they find themselves in the playoff discussion or even in the playoff? This week sets up everything for them. They currently sit number 7 in the poll. Number 6, dropping 2 spots, is Oklahoma. Number 5, Iowa remains number 5 after a rough showing against Colorado State at home. More on that game here in a bit. Number 4, Penn State, as I mentioned, they move up to the number 4 team in the current poll. Number 3, Oregon remains there. Number 2, Georgia, after their absolute shellacking of Vanderbilt, 62-0. Yep, you heard right. They stay at number 2. And number 1, status quo, Alabama still occupies the number 1 spot. So, as you can tell by my reaction, I'm okay for the majority of this AP poll, but there's just some things here that I absolutely don't agree with. But overall, these really don't matter. The only rankings that really matter are those that come out in a few weeks. I believe in 3 weeks, the very first playoff rankings come out, and that is where truth will be told. So I don't necessarily get too wrapped up in the AP poll rankings at this point. So now, following the AP poll, I'm about to now unveil to you my updated team power rankings. I do this every week during the review shows. I give you my top 10 plus 2. So following this week's action, here's my updated team power rankings. Let me get a quick swig of water here. And once again, please get involved. Comment the hell out of my comments. Let me know how I'm doing. If you love the show, if you hate it, if you want to call me a dirty SOB, so be it. Let's just try to keep things as adult-like as possible. And please, spread the word, spread the conversation. Like, share, subscribe. Let's get it done. So now, here are my updated team power rankings post week 4. Number 1. There's a little bit of movement this week too, by the way, and I'll share that with you compared to last week's power rankings. If you didn't happen to watch our week 3 review show, you can find that here on YouTube as well. So occupying the 1 spot this week, after that impressive showing, a conference victory on the road, yes, against hapless Vanderbilt, I get that. But 62-0 is 62-0. I have now moved in my power rankings. Georgia is my number 1 team in the nation. So they did move up 1 spot. Moving down 1 spot is Alabama. And Alabama had a very business as usual, workmanlike sort of victory over the weekend against the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles. The favorite, if you know that, if you're familiar with this program, they have one really famous alum. That's my guy, Brett Favre. And he would probably describe the Alabama team over the weekend as something along these lines. Well, I think they played awesome. They played awesome today. Thanks, Brett, for your insight. So Alabama, I moved them down 1 spot to number 2 in my power rankings, but they do have a huge shot to move back up to number 1. They face a tough matchup this week when they host a very highly ranked, highly talented Ole Miss team. So they do have the potential to take back the number 1 spot. Coming in at number 3, just like last week, is the Oregon Ducks. But they did struggle. They were tested at home by lonely Arizona. Arizona they came into Autzen Stadium 0-3, coming off the heels of a loss to FCS Northern Arizona. This was a 24-19 game at the end of the fourth quarter. So maybe Duck fans were a little bit in disarray, but they did pull away in the fourth quarter. They ended up winning 41-19. So I'm going to keep the Ducks where they are. Now, this is where things, number 4, 5, and 6, this is where I was a little bit torn. Because I wanted to prove to you that I do have anonymity and I'm not Mr. Homer Simpson. I keep having to say that. Eventually, I'm going to stop mentioning that because you're going to see. Am I an Iowa fan? Yes. But I am not a Homer fan. I understand the strengths and weaknesses of every team, especially my own. So this is where 4, 5, and 6 was tough for me. But here they are. Let's see if you agree or disagree. Even though they looked lackluster again and needed a field goal as time expired, I kept Oklahoma number 4 just like they were last week. I did not move Iowa or Penn State ahead of them because Iowa, I might have done that. If they would have looked a little bit better in their victory, if they would have won 31-14, 34-14, just looked a little bit more the part of a number 5 team in the nation, because they're number 5 both in the AP and my power rankings last week and this week. If they would have looked a little bit better, I probably would have moved Iowa above Oklahoma. But right now, I've got Oklahoma still occupying the 4 spot. I've got Iowa at 5. And there's one thing that I'm going to go ahead and mention. Now, earlier this show, I mentioned I wanted to show a little bit of class today, and hopefully I'm looking a little bit better, but I know I really can't, fix this. I know I've said several times, I know I have a face for radio. Thank you for sticking with me. Don't adjust your cameras. There's nothing going on from your end. It's just the way it is. Play the cards you're dealt. But I need to mention this. During the Iowa game, when I'm watching from the Hawk Cave, it's 14-7 Colorado State at the half. And I hear boos raining down from the stands. And I am not only talking right now about Iowa fans. I'm talking fans overall, period. I am in no position to tell someone what they can and can't do. I'm not going to break out my soapbox, especially on this vlog, and tell you what you need to do because this is what I do. All right? Myself personally, I choose never to boo amateur athletes. College athletes, high school, even though NIL, these college athletes can collect some personal gain financially now, they can. These are still amateur athletes. If you go to a professional game where these pros are being paid millions and millions of dollars and tickets are a little costly for any pro game, then you have every right to boo. Because these are professionals, they're big boys, they're big girls. If you go to a WNBA game, you have every right as a fan to boo that. Because as a consumer, if you're unhappy with a product, you demand and deserve better. But I do not boo amateur athletes. All right? And when you hear boos coming down from my brethren, my fellow Hawkeye fans, and granted, some of those people would say, oh, I'm not booing the players, I'm booing the coaches, I'm booing the scheme, I'm booing the program in general, blah, blah, blah. But I hate to tell you, players on the field can't differentiate between that. So Spencer Petras, the defensive unit, special teams, the third string guard, whoever, they think that you're booing them, all right? And I think those who boo, that is a low-class move. Now, granted, I'm not one. I can't tell you what to do. Some of you would say, well, if I pay for a ticket to a college football game or anything, I pay the same amount of money that you did. We both put our pants on the same way. I can boo if I want. True, go ahead, your decision. But fans, any fans, Iowa, Missouri, North Dakota State, Buffalo, Morehead State, I don't care. if you're booing, that's a low-class move. That's just my perspective on it. So that was very disappointing to see my brethren, my fellow Hawkeye fans, raining boos down on the team as they run down the tunnel at halftime. But anyway, I've got them number 5. And I'm not going to shame Hawkeye fans, because that could be a shame for every fan who does that. So, but if it does happen again this year, if Hawkeye fans are booing and I hear it, I may put us under the shame bell. So just be advised. So number 6, I have Penn State. And this was another tough one. Penn State, they did not move from last week. Now, they were impressive. 38-17 was the final, but at the behest of an FCS opponent, and that was Villanova. Now, Villanova is a very good FCS program. I believe they're ranked in the top 5. So these cats can ball. And they are the Wildcats. See what I did there? So these cats can ball. But if that would have been a little bit more impressive against a Division I opponent, maybe I would have moved them ahead of Iowa. But I can't do that because it was against an FCS opponent. And I still think right now Iowa's resume is just slightly better than Penn State's. But those arguments are going to be solved. We'll have our answer when those two teams meet on the horizon. Is a huge matchup between Iowa and Penn State in Kinnick Stadium. Iowa City's going to be rocking in a couple weeks. Hopefully both teams will still be undefeated, but we'll see what Week 5, the upcoming week, brings. So we'll have our answers. Everything will be figured out after that matchup. So number 7, I have Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, the Bearcats move up 2 spots from last week. They occupy number 7. A lot of it because Texas A&M losing, and let's see, also Clemson losing. So I had them moving up because even though they were idle, but they are going to be rewarded. And they are right now, their Super Bowl is coming up this weekend at Notre Dame. Number 8, I've got Arkansas. So Arkansas makes their appearance. They jump into my team power rankings at number 8 after 2 solid, excellent victories, and they just completed the Texas two-step. They have head-to-head victories over Texas and Texas A&M. Well done, Arkansas. And think about the benefit now of recruiting, how Arkansas now has a golden key, a golden ticket, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory style. They have a golden ticket to now go into the Lone Star State and recruit at a high level after those 2 victories. Number 9, I've got Ohio State. They dropped 2 spots this week. Once again, their defense, their offense, this team still has a lot of growing to do, so I have them moving down 2 spots to number 9. Up 1 spot is BYU. They were tested at home. I mean, South Florida did give them a little bit of a push, but when push came to shove, they avoided a huge letdown. 35-27 was the final score, and I was concerned that there would be a little bit of a letdown after last week's game against ranked Arizona State, but they did take care of business, so they move up 1 spot to number 10. Number 11 is Notre Dame. Notre Dame moves up 1 spot last week from 12 to 11. They are undefeated. They're highly ranked, but I'm going to say this right now. I am still not sold on this Notre Dame Fighting Irish team. So them moving up and them winning, I think, is more of a comment on the status of Wisconsin. I mean, the final score of this game was, I've got it right here, the final score. Let's see. Where is it? I do have it here. Notre Dame. I will go ahead and check it out here soon, but it ended up being pretty much a huge, okay, here it is. It was, let's see, scores. I thought I had it down here. Bear with me 1 second. I don't want to be misquoted because I'm going to make a huge point here on the current status of the Wisconsin Badger program. Let's do week 4, top 25. Here we go. Let's see what we got. A little slow down here, my internet. Let's see what we got. Come on now. Come on. Come with it. Okay, here we go. She's coming through right now. Final score was 41-13. Now you're thinking, wow, what a shellacking. Not so fast, as Lee Corso would say. This was a 13-10 ball game early in the fourth quarter. Wisconsin had just kicked a field goal, took the lead. So now you're thinking it's going to be the kind of phone booth game, the phone booth battle that Wisconsin wanted. Then it all went to hell in a handbag. And the next shame I'm going to hand out is to Wisconsin, but specifically to their offense and quarterback Graham Mertz. This is what transpired during that fourth quarter. Graham Mertz threw 4 interceptions for the game, and 2 of those were pick sixes that happened in the fourth quarter. His numbers, and he had actually 5 turnovers on the game, 4 picks and a fumble. So they've only played 3 games, has Wisconsin. But this offense is completely broken. They've played 2 marquee opponents. They've opened up with Penn State, which was a loss, and losing over the weekend to Notre Dame. So 2 good teams. But through those 2 big games, Graham Mertz he's been responsible for 7 turnovers, 6 interceptions. What the hell is going on there in Madison? Graham Mertz, highly coveted quarterback, actually is the highest rated quarterback they've ever had at Wisconsin. Recently signed a big NIL deal. He has his own logo, T-shirts. Who the hell's buying those right now? This offense is shattered. They look lost. They can't do anything right. And the wheels came off the bus so quickly in that fourth quarter. After that 13-10 score, after that field goal attempt, Notre Dame proceeded to run the kickoff back. And then those 2 pick six happened. It just absolutely was a SHIT show. It just was. And that's what's been going on in Madison. Get it right. Wisconsin offense, quarterback Graham Mertz, what are you doing? To you I say, shame, shame, shame. And the last team on my 10+2 team power rankings is the Ole Miss Rebels. They will have an opportunity to move up this week as they travel to T-Town to take on mighty Alabama. And I'll definitely talk more about this game later in the week in the Week 5 preview. So that is my updated team power rankings through Week 4. So hopefully you agree, disagree. Once again, comment, let me know. If you think this team is too high, this team is too low, or hey, where is this team at? Let me know. So now I'm going to go into how it played out for our beloved black and golds over the weekend. And I am going to go ahead and start, as I always do, with our Missouri Tigers. MIZZOU. So Missouri this week, during appetizer week, it wasn't a very good, tasteful appetizer for our Missouri Tigers. They traveled to Chestnut Hill to take on a very physical Boston College team, but also a Boston College team that lost their starting quarterback 2 weeks ago. I definitely picked Mizzou to win. So did Charlie. Our guest picker, my brother, picked BC. So kudos to you, Anthony. You got this one. You pulled this one out. But Missouri, let me just tell you, this was a really tough 41-34 loss. It did come in overtime. Missouri's offense did show up and show out, but I'll get to that here in a little bit. The issues that have plagued and will continue to plague Missouri and the Missouri Tigers manifested themselves yet again on Saturday. Throughout this show, from episode to episode, I have said publicly their biggest weakness is going to be, and was coming into the season, their defensive line play. And that is exactly what played out Saturday against Boston College. They could not consistently get off the field on defense. The rush defense continues to be consistent, and when I say that, the the wrong type of consistency that we want. We don't want them to be this consistent. They allowed the Eagles to rush for 276 yards at a clip of a 5.6 average per carry. Yikes. That is cause for concern because now upon us, they still have one non-conference game left as Missouri. They play the North Texas Mean Green, but now they're going... What the hell is that? Oh, sorry. Let me get rid of that. So, but now they're going to start facing much bigger, stronger, deeper, faster offensive lines than BC has that could really dominate them in the line of scrimmage. They continuously lose the point of attack on defense. They get pushed around. They just cannot get off the field. And this is something that is not going to fix itself during the season. I think Mizzou will have better games to where they might only allow 200, maybe 150 yards rushing. But I've seen enough to tell you right now that this is going to be a continuous problem this season. And they might end up losing a game that they should win or that I think they should win as well. Let's see. Kentucky exposed this weakness. Boston College did. Now everybody knows this is the formula. This is how you beat Missouri. Run the ball heavy and try to make their offense make mistakes. And that is exactly what came to fruition on Saturday. Connor Bazelak, he did throw for 303 yards, but also 2 critical interceptions. So that is the game plan, how to beat Missouri. Run, 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 make the offense, force them into mistakes, and you should be right there potentially for the victory. I mean, that is exactly how it played out. Harrison Mevis, the field goal kicking deity. It's nice that both of our black and golds, our beloved black and golds, have a deity in special teams. Harrison Mevis, the field goal deity for Missouri, kicked a career-long 56-yard field goal as time expired to force overtime, but it just wasn't enough. BC still got it done. And this is what is going to summarize the problem. I've mentioned it to you now in previous episodes about the Missouri rush defense. Even when they're stacking the box, when they're bringing a man up, they are still getting run all over. This is exactly what summarizes the problem. I'm watching that game, and Missouri had just scored a touchdown to take the lead, 31-27, with a little over 6 minutes left in the game. And this is what happened. Boston College gets the ball back. During this drive, there was no sense of urgency. They never did anything up-tempo. They never went no huddle because they knew we don't need to worry about being rushed. We know what we can do against this Missouri defense. And that is exactly what they did. They went on a 15-play drive, and they only threw the ball 3 times. 3 times. And those 3 times, none of them were vertically down the field. None of those were 20, 30-yard attempts down the field. No. 2 of them were short crossing routes over the middle, and 1 was a little check down dump off in the flat. So they marched the field on the ground. That right there summarizes everything. We don't need to be in a hurry. We don't need to think pass first. We don't need to send 4 wide receivers out. We're just going to run the ball and not worry about the clock. I mean, it was absolutely dreadful watching. And Missouri fans, and I'm not per se a Missouri fan. I root for them. They are my local Division I team. I have numerous family and friends who that is their team. So I have a vested interest in them. And I want them to win. And I did think they would win this game. I am invested in them. But this could be potentially a rough year if you're a Missouri Tiger fan, because this is going to be a problem. And they have a huge matchup this week. Tennessee comes to Columbia. I think if you watched earlier episodes, I believe it was the episode 3, which was our preview, I was joined by Charlie, and I stated that this game was the most important game on Missouri's schedule. It has turned out to be exactly that. Charlie believed that the Kentucky game was going to be Missouri's biggest game. It was a big game, but Missouri lost that game at Lexington. Biggest game of the season is happening this weekend for Missouri against Tennessee. Tune in for the Week 5 preview, and I'll fill you in with why. So, disappointing loss, but hopefully they can get back to the drawing board, watch some tape, get it right, get it fixed. We have to toughen up on defense, Missouri, or else it's going to be a disappointing season. So now let's move on to what I saw from the black and gold of the Iowa Hawkeyes. IOWA. This is what I saw from the Iowa Hawkeyes. They did find themselves in a dogfight at home. Number 5 ranked team, little bit of a hangover, down 14-7 at halftime. And at that point, and they also were a 23-point favorite at home, but that's completely unrealistic. I mean, obviously, most of you have not watched the number of Iowa football games that I have in my lifetime. And remember, the head coach, Kirk Ferentz, has been there. This is his 23rd year. So I have grown up with this man as our head coach. They don't blow out teams. That's not in their DNA. That's not how Iowa football operates. So if you took that bet for Iowa to cover, you were a fool and you deserve losing money. This wasn't going to happen. But down 14-7, there was a good response. And I think at halftime, the defense got a little bit of an ass chewing. I mean, they pitched a shutout in the second half, and the Iowa defense continues to do what they do. Scheme well, execute well, tackle, and tackle. I mean, this no-name defense continues to absolutely impress week by week. 26 straight games now, not allowing 25 points or more, getting it done. And my wife, we're watching the game, and my wife asked me, "Are you concerned?" And I told her, at halftime, no. If it was 14-7 going into the fourth quarter, probably have a little bit of sweat coming down the brow. But I told her I'm not concerned because this is your typical Iowa game. So defense, they answered the bell, got it done. They recorded 3 more sacks and 9 more tackles for loss. The numbers each and every week, once again, they're putting up is really incredible. Forced another turnover and held the team to 14 points. I mean, it's absolutely incredible what they're doing. I mean, championship level defense continues to be played in Iowa City. Not just Big Ten championship level, but championship level in general. I mean, they are absolutely one of the top 5 best defenses in the nation. Right there with Clemson, Georgia. I mean, this is a monumental defense that's being played in Iowa City right now. But here's the thing. Teams now, just like Missouri, teams know what the formula is, how we can potentially beat Iowa. And that is to stack the box. Bring up an extra man or two. Don't let Iowa run the ball. Make Spencer Petras, the quarterback, throw to beat us. That's how you can potentially beat Iowa. The Iowa offense continues to be a work in progress. They are taking baby steps towards average. This offense is still not average yet. I'd say they're still slightly below average, but there was growth on Saturday. And average might be all they need to be to have a great season. Right now, how I'm looking at things, I see 9-3, 10-2, which is still a good season, especially for Iowa standards, it is. But if they can just become an average offense, it's going to be a great, memorable year for them. It's theirs for the taking. What Colorado State did, shut down the Iowa rushing attack. They only mustered, I believe it was 57 yards is what I've got. Let's see here. I think that's what it was. Let's see. I did have it here someplace. Well, I think it was right at 57 yards. That is what Iowa got on the ground because Colorado State sold out against the run game. And Spencer Petras also answered the bell. I saw something that I've been waiting to see all season that hadn't happened. Iowa attacked downfield several times, 20, 30, 40 yards down. Did they complete every pass? Did he? No. But they were taking their chances. And that's what you're going to have to do then to soften up that run defense. And overall, his numbers, Spencer Petras, not bad. He was 15 for 23, which is a 65% completion percentage, which he started off after week 2 being like 49, right at 50. So there has been growth the last 2 weeks. So 65% completion percentage, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he did throw his first interception of the year. And it was a very poor decision. It was a little tunnel screen. They had it first and goal to go just inside the 10. A little tunnel screen in the flat. Way too much traffic there. He probably just should have thrown the ball away or thrown it at the receiver's feet. Tried to force it, picked off, and then returned about 80 yards the other way for Colorado State. And that led to the Colorado State touchdown right before the half to take that 14-7 lead. So that was his first really poor decision of the year. If he doesn't turn the ball over and gets to be average, folks, I'm going to say it again, this can be a very, very scary good Iowa team. And in the second half, he was absolutely average. And I'm fine with that. In the second half, Spencer Petras was 8 of 13 for 102 yards, no turnovers, 7.8 average per completion. That's what you want. He needs to bring his yards per completion up. Right now, he's still right, I think a little bit over, I think it's like 6.7. He needs to get about 8 to 9 yards per completion. He does that. Don't turn it over. 65% completion percentage. They're going to be good. They still need to get average. They're working on it. And unlike Missouri's issues, the really big issues for Iowa offensively right now is their offensive line. They're still young. They're a little banged up. They still need more reps together. They need to open the lanes to use their best offensive weapon, which is Tyler Goodson. I mean, he had a career day 2 weeks ago against Kent State with 156 yards and 3 touchdowns. The offensive line definitely executed better that game, but this week they couldn't get that open. But a lot of the times they were outnumbered by the Colorado State defensive front. They need to get better. The O-line at Iowa has to improve to get Tyler Goodson more involved. But year after year, we've seen this at Iowa. Come the end of September, early October, their offensive lines are never operating at the highest level. They are a work in progress. Remember, we are a developmental program, and I've seen Iowa lines improve throughout the year before. So unlike Missouri's issue with the D-line and the rush defense, that's going to be very, very difficult to fix during the season. I think Iowa can right the ship on the O-line during season. They just need some more time and more games, but hopefully they're not going to have a stumble or a hiccup before that happens. And this team is going to lose a game or two. It is going to happen. Hopefully it's to somebody that is a legitimate opponent, and hopefully it doesn't cost them the chance for a Big Ten West title. But no matter what plays out, they're still going to have to go to Madison, Wisconsin and win. They still need to do that on October 30th, the rivalry week, and I cannot wait for that game. But big challenge ahead. This week, Friday night, short week of preparation. You have to travel. They travel to our nation's capital to take on an undefeated Maryland squad. Offensively, Taulia Tagovailoa spreading the ball all over the field. It's going to be a tough task for Iowa. And I'll break this game down more during the Week 5 preview later this week. But overall, not a bad game, but I was hoping for a little bit more on the scoreboard. But Iowa could have run it up. They did force a turnover and downs late in the game in the fourth quarter. I think there was 1 minute and 10 seconds to go. They get the ball at the Colorado State 10. So they could have kicked a field goal. They could have tried to put it in the end zone. But Kirk Ferentz showed some class, just kneed it out. But hey, 27-14, 31-14 would have looked much better in the eyes of fans and the pollsters. So it could have been better, but it could have been worse. We're 4-0. As an Iowa fan, I've seen so many teams in the past, Iowa teams, stub their toe in September. We're through September 4-0, folks. I'm happy. I'm getting a little bit nervous, but I'm excited, if anything. And just kind of quickly, I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm going to wrap this up. I've seen every team from the Big Ten West play multiple games now. Wisconsin, I mentioned, their offense is broken. They are lost in the wilderness. Graham Mertz needs to wake up from his nightmare. Illinois is all over the radar. Nebraska is Nebraska. I mean, Purdue just squeaked how to win at home over Illinois. I think it was 13-9. Right now, in Minnesota, losing to Bowling Green, as I talked about earlier this episode, the contenders that could challenge Iowa. Iowa is the best team in this division. They absolutely are. Their offense just needs to improve a little bit more for them to get to Indianapolis to play for the Big Ten title. But I still think they're going to have to beat Wisconsin. But they are, right now, the best team in this division, hands down. All right. So that is what I saw from our black and golds during week 4, the appetizer. Now let's get to our last topic let's revisit our week 4 pick'em segment. Let me get a quick swig of water. And then I'll be wrapping this up really soon here. I appreciate you guys staying with me. Once again, comment, like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. So week 4, we had a guest picker. My brother Anthony joined Charlie and I. And how it played out, our guest picker went 10-5. Anthony, pretty good, but it wasn't good enough. 3 men entered Thunderdome. 1 man exited. Charlie went 9-6. And me, I went 12-3. So for the 3rd straight week, the people's champion remains on top, numero uno. So 12-3 was good enough to take the title during the week 4 pick'em segment. To kind of summarize, kind of revisit, we all got some games right. We all picked Arkansas, Washington, Purdue, UCLA, Iowa, and SIU to win, and they did. We all missed the Wisconsin game. We all thought Notre Dame was going to lose to Wisconsin, but boy, were we wrong. Anthony, my brother, he got Boston College. Charlie and I picked Missouri to win. Charlie didn't really get any. I mean, he didn't get any compared to my brother and I. I got LSU and SMU. They both had Mississippi State and TCU to win. So on the season, post week 4, this is where we stand. Our guest pickers so far, Brett, my friend Brett, leads with an 11-4 record, which is good for 73%. Anthony at 10-5 is at 67%. This week, we're going to have another guest picker, one of my colleagues, a friend that I work with, my friend Brad, going to join us. He wants his title shot. 3 men enter, 1 man leaves Thunderdome again. He's been a loyal black and gold follower from the get-go, so I'm going to reward Brad, give you your shot this week at the title. So for the season, I'm 40-20, which is good for 67%. Charlie's at 37-23, which is good for 62%. And if you recall, we are both shooting for 70 to 75% or better on the year, so we're both making some progress. So that's where we are as far as our picks. It was fun. Let's see how Brad does this week. And last thing this week, just to revisit my potential trap. It's a trap. The trap games from the weekend. Want to let you know how I did. Per normal, I gave you 4. And let's see if they were hits or misses. The first game, Kent State at Maryland. That was a miss. Maryland held on to a 37-16 win. I thought they'd be looking ahead to this week's matchup when they host my Hawkeyes on Friday night. Wasn't the case. Next game, Boise State traveled to undefeated Utah State. Direct hit You sunk my battleship. Utah State was undefeated. After this week, they lost 27-3. Maybe they were looking ahead to this Friday night's game. They host highly ranked BYU, so maybe they were looking ahead a little bit. Didn't think the Broncos could come there and get it done to Logan, Utah, but they did. So I got that one right. Next one was Kentucky at South Carolina. That was a miss. Close game. I thought Kentucky would be looking ahead to this week's matchup. They host number 10 Florida. What a big game that is for the SEC East, which definitely is going to affect Missouri moving forward. So I missed that game. They won 16-10 on the road. And the last game was Washington State at Utah. That was also a miss. I thought Utah would be looking ahead. They are idle this week, but next week, during week 6, they travel to USC, which could be a game that could mean the Pac-12 South winner. So I thought they'd be looking ahead, but Utah they pulled it out. They were tested at home, but they walk away with a 24-13 victory. So on the week, I was 1-3 for my trap games. So, hey, I never claimed to be perfect. I'll try to do better next week. So that was it. Really appreciate you being here. Welcome. Thank you very much for your viewership. I mean, my hats off. Bows to you, the Black and Gold family. This has been such a pleasure. It's been an absolute treat for me to do this with you every week, and I look forward to it moving forward. Have a huge week on tap. Definitely make sure you tune in to watch the Week 5 preview. I expect that to be released Thursday afternoon at the latest, maybe Friday morning. In the meantime, share, get the conversation out, like, share, subscribe, comment. I'll get your comments on air, and we'll go from there. So, until I talk with you and see you later this week, enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe, peace, prosperity, progress, and I'll talk with you soon. Thanks for joining me on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. We'll see you later. Bye-bye then.